Up North Radio, its staff, management, or sponsors.
Time for Curries Corner with Pat Curry.
Hey, Jen, what about me?
And you too, Pete Kent. Brought to you by Big Rapids Pennzoil and Auto Repair, Seth Winger at the Winger Insurance Agency, Gilbert's Carpets plus Color Tile, Barrington Firearms and Training Center, DW2 Drywall, and Michigan Landscape and Excavate.
There's a man named Pat Curry, he's got a passion for the news. Brings the stories of Big Rapids and Mecosta County to you. Every Tuesday morning, you know just where to go. Tune in to B1039, he's got the scoop, don't you know? Welcome to Curries Corner. With Pete Kent by his side, they'll keep you informed and entertained. Taking you on a ride from the latest happenings to the heart of the community. Come on over to Big Rapids and see what's on TV. Now you tell me it's not TV. Well, that's okay, just listen with me. We're on the radio, so now let's go. Time for Curries Corner on your radio, yeah. Tune in and turn it up, let's have some fun.
Great guest today. I was up to the Ambets Friday night, but before I start my show this morning, I had a song I wanted to play, but we can't play songs
on a stream. Yep.
On a stream, yeah.
We'll do it at the end. How's that?
Well, I'd almost just say the words, and you can hear the words real quick.
Sure, we can do that.
We'll do that in a minute, but before I do that, I like jumping back and forth on my subject.
I know
you know
do.
that.
Mm-hmm.
We had something historically happen in Big Rapids, Ferris State University. We've had Coach Anise on. If anybody wanted to listen to his interview last week at Sports Show, Stotho.
Last Wednesday, yep.
Hot Stove League there last Wednesday. Listen to it, folks. It's B1039BigRapids.net. .com.
.com.
Tony Anise just won the GLIAC championship for I don't know how many times he's done it.
Is it 9 or something like that?
Yeah, something like that. But he's got a bye this next week, and then they go in to play some pretty tough opponents. But they are the toughest right now, rated number 1 in their area. And then Tina Wilhelm, the volleyball coach, I think, I know she's still undefeated, and she won the GLIAC. On the way over here, I kind of was reminiscing about our history of Ferris sports, and a lot of colleges, have sports intramural or just have them to entice people to come and play for them or whatever, and it gives children, I shouldn't say children, young people a chance to play after their college years. And Ferris, somehow, they just keep on winning. I think like Andy Brockema, the basketball coach, and Tia and Tony, just to entice kids to come here to play after high school is not in their deal. They want to win championships, so we're very fortunate to have.
Yeah, actually, I stand corrected. It's their 10th GLIAC title. Yep. Actually, their 10th straight playoff spot.
Wow, isn't that something that we have that right in our hometown? You know,
not GLIAC champion, but 10th playoff spot, which is pretty admirable.
Yeah, and then I know this isn't a sports show, but I just want to hats off to Big Rapids Cardinals. They had a great year, and Reed City unfortunately got beat by Boyne City. Boyne City must be a tough team. Hats off to those guys to beat a fabulous Reed City coach. Is a great guy up there, and we've had him on a few times on the sports show. Eventually you're going to get beat, but it looks like Ferris State is a favorite to go on and win another Division II championship. Good luck, Tony and company. We'll talk more about that later. Maybe tomorrow or something, eh? Yeah, there's a lot going on in Big Rapids right now. Christmas time is coming up. It's a time to reflect on the great year that we've had. Thanksgiving obviously is first. Back in the old days, the lights would never come on until after Thanksgiving. I don't know what that tradition was all about, but nowadays I think people are trying to get into the spirit a little early.
Mm-hmm. Comfort food.
I think people are there's a lot of love out there, and I think there's a lot of hate too, and that's too bad. Just recently, Donald Trump was our 47th president, and it's a shame, and I really am embarrassed the way some of these people are reacting to a new president coming in to run the United States and actually the country's right. But calling him an idiot and calling us all a bunch of liars and convicted felons and stuff like that, I wish it would stop. I pray it would stop because, these are very well-educated people saying things like this. And I read one from a good friend the other day that said that his cabinet looked more like a group of clowns than it did officials. But that's sad. But if you could just keep it to yourself, folks, and maybe you should open up the Bible and read a little bit. Might help your personal lives.
Mm-hmm.
But anyway, we didn't come here for all that jabbery talk from me, did we, or whatever?
Yeah, well, usually. Actually, we need a third show. Just Pat, we're going to call it.
Well, Dan Spadowski, as like the rest of those guys in the morning, come in there, and he had a song that he wanted me to listen to this morning, and I wish we could play it on Streamline, but like I say, at the end of the show, maybe we'll play it for the locals. But for the folks that aren't privileged to hear it on the radio, Walk a Mile in My Shoes by Joe South. I
know that one.
Do you know that one? You remember that one? 1968.
Yeah.
I have a guest this morning, and this is what I do. This is how I do things, Richard. I just talk and just keep talking and keep talking. But Friday night, Penny and I went up to the chicken barbecue at AmVets in Reed City. Great group of people from Reed City go to that. And they support the AmVets heavily, I know, and I saw Larry Adams up there. He's a longtime resident of Big Rapids, moved up there years ago. I think he's a commander up there or whatever. But AmVets, we all know what they are. They're veterans, and they put on a heck of a chicken dinner. And we always, whenever Buck Harrison sends me a note that they're having one, I go up there and join the Weckelmans. Joe, my good friend, and his brothers and sisters, and Randy Park was there, the old football coach here at Ferris, or at the high school level. He was a special ed teacher. We could talk about Randy for a long time, and maybe our guest will, because it's his niece's husband. Right, Richard? I have Richard Carnes with me. Pretty intriguing guy. We sat there at the table with Richard. My wife sat next to him so she could hear him real well, and I could hear him real well, too. And I was telling him about this lady I met at the gas station months ago, and I wanted her to come on and talk about the history of Reed City. And I forgot her. I lost her number, and I can't remember her name, but if she's out there listening, good God, get a hold of me. I'd love to have you on. But in that saying that, Richard, we were conversing about Reed City, and I'm going to let him talk about his life. He's 80 years young, and I said, if I'm that good looking and that young at 80 years old and feel that great, I'll be happy. That's only 10 years away, actually, almost 9 in a month. But anyway, Richard's got an intriguing life. I want you to talk about your mother and dad, where they grew up. Because, folks, what we do here is we try to relive the history and find out why we are in the present, how we got here. And they grew up in some tough times, and I think tough times makes strong people. And then all of a sudden you get strong people that do well, and they don't want that to happen to their children. They want something better in life for them, and I think that weakens a little bit. But anyway, Richard, good morning. And you
get right up on that microphone.
Yeah, or move the mic right up.
Yeah, there you go. I think that's, there you go.
Good morning.
Oh, wait a second.
But anyway, Richard was lucky enough to marry into the Weckelman family.
It was the Briggs
hold
family I
on.
married into.
Oh, you're not on yet.
Yeah, hold on. We got to figure that out.
Bob usually is right on.
Yeah, well, we had to use those cables for something else, so we had to pull it out. So give me a second. You know what? Let's take a quick break, and we'll get him set
our
up.
sponsors.
Okay. Oh, yeah, you got it. Coming back on Curries Corner.
I'm Seth Wenger from Wenger Insurance. For more than 100 years, we've been providing professional service and competitive insurance to West Michigan. Come visit us on Perry Street in Big Rapids, or give us a call at 796-0778. We're here for you now, and we'll be here when you need us most. 796-0778.
Where do you go for Michigan's #1 concealed pistol license course? The same place thousands of Michigan residents have over the past 15 years, the Barrington Firearms Training Center. The BFTC conducts state-certified CPL courses right here locally inside the Barrington Conservation Club at 3444 18 Mile Road in Barrington. For just $99, all you need to bring us is your Michigan ID to these all-inclusive one-day CPL courses, which include the use of firearms, ammo, eye and ear protection, coffee and donuts in the morning, and lunch at noon. That's right, just $99 gets you everything needed to take the police department instructed course that includes the training necessary to safely load, unload, handle, and store your firearm. Students will also be trained on when it is legal to defend themselves with a firearm under Michigan's Stand Your Ground law and Castle Doctrine. Call 231-250-7257 or go online at michigancpltraining.com to register for one of their upcoming $99 all-inclusive CPL courses. Get armed, get trained at the Barrington Firearms Training Center.
All right, we're back. So, Richard, talk for a second. Let's make sure we got you there.
I'm here.
There you go. You are. Okay, good
all right,
deal.
good.
I can't
Charger
hear
for
you.
that.
All right. Well, we
That's
got
out in
Rick.
the
Oh,
lobby.
now I can hear you good. All right. So do we have
Okay.
to say everything we just said again?
No.
About AMVETs? All right.
No, you just started.
Well,
with
it's the VFW, by the way.
Yeah, thank you,
Yeah.
Richard. Yeah, I've been corrected several times on the radio. VFW, yeah, right behind the Wesco there in
Yeah.
Reed City. Yeah. Great little place. Very clean, very nice, great people. But anyway, so we went up there Friday night and had chicken dinner with the Weckelmans, and Richard's a brother-in-law to Joe and the rest of them. And pretty interesting. Thereafter, in the gas station, Joe and I were talking yesterday about the weekend, and he thinks the world of you. He said he was a gift to the Weckelman family because when his mother passed prior and his dad, you were very, very good to both of them, and there was another one that you helped in their eternal life.
You know, I'm Joe's uncle.
Right.
And
okay. I'm sorry. Yeah.
I was married to Esther's baby sister, Joan Briggs.
Okay.
We got married in 71, and we started dating in 70. I had just come home from Vietnam in 69. And then we started dating, and I got married on January 16th of 71. And the Weckelmans have always been a blessing to me, too. So it was a two-way street. When my wife died, Esther was with me. And so it was just a very hard experience, but she was a blessing to not only her kids, but to me. When, like I said, I'd been to Vietnam, I knew what fear was, but when I was left with my two little boys, 7 and 10, if it hadn't been for Esther, a lot of times I'd have gone
How old
nuts.
was your wife when she passed?
46.
Oh, my Lord.
Yeah, we'd been married 11 and a half years, and 7 years we're fighting cancer. And so it wasn't like we had a chance to do anything miraculous, but we did have 2 wonderful boys. And so I told Esther, I said, God, Esther, if anything happens to me, you take care of the boys, because I wanted them raised Catholic. And which is sort of funny, because I come from a Protestant family, and we were very anti-Catholic. And I remember my sister, she was dating a Catholic boy, and I said, well, I know one thing. I was born a Methodist, I'll die a Methodist, and I'm the only Catholic in the family. But that has a long history, too. When I was in Vietnam, we had a young priest. I'm a corpsman with the 1st Marine Division, so I was with artillery. He would come and talk to us, and I'd say, I was 25. Most of them were 18, 19 years old. So they would come to me, and I was not only doc, but I was their mother, their confessor. They would come to me with problems. And I'd say, they're asking me this question. I'm not Catholic. He says, don't keep saying that. I don't care if you're Catholic or not. He reminds me a lot of your Father Jagger.
Oh, yeah.
Very approachable, very knowledgeable. And he was very supportive to the questions I would ask. But then when I came home, I was searching for something. It just never occurred to me to look to the Catholic Church. But what a blessing. And they said, well, you turned Catholic for your wife, because she was Catholic. And I said, maybe she was the catalyst, but I think I did it for me. So when she died, Mom said, well, now are you going to come back to the Methodist Church with us? I says, Mama, I changed for me. I didn't change for her. I changed for me. And so then when I married Catholic, she was a cradle Catholic. And we have a daughter. And so I have 3 wonderful kids and 5 grandsons. But unfortunately, she died too. We were married 36 years and 20 years off and on fighting cancer. And so being a spectator for something like that is a tragedy in itself. And you look at people and you feel, oh, I'm so this, I'm so that. And I think, man, if you only knew what other people go through sometimes. So I try to remember that. And when I was growing up, like you said, my parents, my mother and dad both came from the Leroy area. Mom was more toward Edgetts, and Dad lived in Leroy on the Beaver Creek. There was the 80-acre farm there. And my grandpa, Carnes, was a fuller brush man. He sold commodities. He went all over the state, and I think in Ohio, Indiana. And so he wasn't home a lot. So at 14, they said, well, Fred, that's my dad, you got to go to Reed City and get a job. You got to support the family, or help support the family. And I had an uncle just younger than my dad, so he farmed. And so Dad found a job, left 30 miles away from his home and got a job at 14, made $1 a day and $7 a month for his room and board. The rest, or a lot of it, went to the farm. So when my mother and dad got married, my older brother, Grandma and Grandpa were down there getting money. And when my Gertrude was born, they said, Mom said, that's going to stop. And it did.
How many?
Well, I'm the youngest of 12. Okay. Well, there were 14, but Mom and Dad raised 12 of us. And so growing up in a family of 12, you've got a lot of bosses. And I was sort of a backward kid. My eye-hand coordination was pitiful. I wasn't good in sports. I was on the basketball team at the 8th grade. I remember it was so sure we were going to win or we were going to lose, they put Carnes in because I was so that pathetic. And, but yeah, it was. I was gullible. I was a gullible kid, and this. Oh, do I got to take Ricky with me? Do I have to take him? I'm a little kid growing up. You think, boy, I must be just pathetic. And but then you realize the boys next to me are 6 and 8 years older. Why would a 60-year-old kid want his 8-year-old brother tagging along? Right. I got along better with my older brothers and sisters, the ones that were old enough to be my father and mother. And there were 5 of us. 5 of the 7 could have been my parents. My oldest brother's 22 and a half years older than me. Wow. See, Dad was born in 1899, and Mother was born in 1902. A whole different time.
Right.
And all of us kids, the last 3 of us, were born at home. And Neoma, Joan, and I were the only ones born in the hospital, which was lucky for me because I was breech. And doctor said, and Mom was hemorrhaging, I was drowning in the blood. And he says, oh, this better be the last one, or Fred, you're going to raise these kids by yourself.
Wow.
And so I was.
Yeah.
And but to make a long story short, it was a good family, a loving family, and I was very fortunate to have been raised in that family.
Do you remember hear talk, because now, like I was born in 53, and so I remember a lot of the times and this and that, but your dad being in the turn of the century and his father, did he ever talk about him?
Very little.
Yeah. Where did they come from?
They were down by Berry County.
Really?
Hastings. Yeah, that's where they all came from.
I mean, they came back from the wagon train.
Oh, yeah, yeah. Oh,
Just think
Horse
about
and
your
buggy.
grandpa.
Yeah.
Yeah,
My uncle did farming with a team of horses.
Yeah.
He didn't have a tractor, never had a tractor.
So you're alive to say that story, and the reason I love hearing it is because my grandkids are going to say, my grandpa drove a 68 Le Mans.
Oh, yeah.
And in your life that you had grandpas and grandmas that never knew what a car was.
Yeah.
And Wyatt Earp was alive, my hero was alive back when your folks were born.
My grandmother, Carnes, was born in Grand Rapids, Michigan. Her last name was Rapp, R-A-P-P, and there was a Rapp dairy very close to what is now John Ball Park. Well, she was terrified that Jesse James was going to come down and attack him, because he was alive during those days.
Right. Yeah.
And she said, I remember Grand Rapids when they had wooden sidewalks. So you would think that was in 1873 she was born.
Right.
And but it was a different time.
Yeah. So you went to a one-room schoolhouse?
No, I didn't. I went to the public school.
Wow.
It was the old school that had the fire escape.
Okay.
And that was the 4th grade. And at the Christmas break in 1952 or 54, I can't remember which now, we carried our books and stuff over to the new school because that was all woods.
Yeah.
And they tore that down to make the Norman Elementary. And that's been added on to several times since then. But And that building was supposed to be condemned. And when I was a senior in high school, the band was there and the lunchrooms. And I took classes in that room, speech and math, that type of thing, and history. But then they had the shop building. And we were the last class to graduate from the 3-story high school building that's torn down now.
Okay.
And then the new building was built. And I was on the school board when the new junior high was built.
Well, before we go on to the, because I want to talk about school board a little bit on both of them, but Vietnam, what year did you go there?
I went to Vietnam in 1968 and 69.
As what?
As a corpsman.
Corpsman, medic.
Well, yeah, same thing as a medic.
Okay. Tell us about the experience over there.
Well, I joined the Navy because all my brothers did. And they saw the world. They were on a ship and sailed over. My one brother went to Scandinavia, the Arctic, and my other brother went to the Mediterranean. And I thought,
so that was before Nam then?
Oh, yes. That was Palmer was in during World War II. He didn't have a good time.
Oh, wow.
But Freddie was in the 1952 in Korea, but he never saw action.
Yeah.
Norman was in 54, he graduated, so it was 56, 54, somewhere in there. And he didn't see action either. So I thought, well, I'll join the Navy, have clean sheets and good water and good food. And, I never saw shit.
Did a lot of people go to the service back then? We never talked much about that.
The women talk about not having, the women talk about not having control of their bodies. Men didn't either. But when you were 18 years old, you had 5 days to sign up for the selective service, the draft.
And what years were that in? All the time since World
I think
War
Jimmy
II?
Carter got that taken care of.
All right, but prior to that, you had 5 days.
5 days after your 18th birthday, you had to sign up for the draft.
did.
Every band.
Even without war.
Even without war. You signed up for the draft.
So,
And I remember I graduated with an LPN, from the LPN school, and I'd taken my state boards, and they said, you will report on January 3rd for your induction physical in Detroit. I thought, oh my God, that's my dad's birthday. What a bad omen is that? I don't want to be in the infantry.
Right.
So I thought, I'll join the Navy like my brothers did. I'll see the world and have it great.
Right.
Well, I didn't know that the Marines got all their doctors, nurses, ministers, priests, corpsmen from the Navy. So after Corps School, I went to Bethesda, Maryland, and then I got my orders to Camp Lejeune, North Carolina, Field Medical School. So I was Fleet Marine Force from then on. You can ask a corpsman, are you blue corpsman or green corpsman? The blue corpsman stayed with the Navy. The green corpsman went with the Marines. And I was FMF, Fleet Marine Force. So after that, I went to El Toro, California, Marine Corps Air Station El Toro. Was there for about 18 months, a little less than that, I guess. Then I got orders, and everybody got orders from, they went with the Air Wing, because that was the 3rd Marine Air Wing in El Toro. Went with the Air Wing in Vietnam. Boy, not me. I went with the 1st Marine Division. I thought, oh my God, I'm going to be a grunt. It was terrifying for me. And 3 of my classmates, John Howe, Ron Miss, Randy Totten, had already gotten killed over there. And I thought, oh, Jesus, I just don't know what my chances are at all. So I told this one Mustanger, he was enlisted, then became a commissioned officer. He was Lieutenant Johns. And I said, Lieutenant, I don't think I can kill anybody. He says, Carnes, listen, if you as a corpsman have time to shoot a rifle, one of 2 things have happened. You're not doing your job, or you're the only one left, because the Marines are going to protect you, and they did. It was a 2-way street. You have to be protecting for them too. They got to know you're on their side, and that you're going to be there for them. But what's odd for a corpsman is the group I went with had been in Vietnam for 2 years, so they were a cohesive group. I enter into that. It's just like going into a new family that you know nothing about them, and you've got to be their corpsman. You've got to be their doctor if you need anything. And so you've got to build a trust. And it was a different thing. Someone said, you must have seen anything horrible over there. I said, yeah, But I got to tell you, I was a nurse in the emergency room. We saw as much horror in the emergency rooms. People shooting themselves, people getting their arms caught in machinery, ripping their arms off, their legs off. I said, a severed limb is a severed limb, whether it's in Vietnam or it's in an emergency room. Any ER nurse listening could tell you that you see all kinds of horror, and you don't get over that in a night. You go home and you think, I can't even sleep because I see what people have done to themselves. You got gray matter and blood all over your uniform and your shoes, and you think, damn. You think that's going to kill you. We had one guy have his head blown off, but he lived an hour in our emergency room. You think, what are you going to do for him? Well, and so you just sit there and you keep what you think is comfortable. And Vietnam taught me a lot of things. I was sort of, like I told you, I was a gullible kid. I was the youngest and had so many bosses. I just couldn't grasp some things. I have the concept, I can draw it, but do you think I can build it? Like with wood? I can draw a piece of furniture, I know what it's going to look like, but I cannot for the life of me build it. Now my brother Arnold was a contractor, he was just the opposite. He says, you draw it, I can build it, but I can't visualize that. But you give me a picture, I can draw that thing. So when I went over to Vietnam, that idea of being there for them and there for me was real. I mean, I come home with a healthy set of self-esteem. When I went over there, I didn't have much because I thought, I remember when we were in this big hangar. We were in Da Nang, and I was north of Da Nang by about 15 miles is where I was at with artillery. And there were hundreds of us in there. Carnes, Wallace. I thought, oh my God, I just wanted to fall on the floor. I didn't know what but it was, he says, you boys lucked out. You're going with artillery. And I thought, I don't care where I go. I just want to go to artillery. And so we went to 1st Marine Division. People everywhere. I thought, oh, please, dear God, let me stay here. Well, no, that didn't happen. So they went to battalion. I thought, I could stay here. This would be great protection, lots of people. And no, Carnes, you're going with Mike Battery. 4th Battalion, 11th Marines, Mike Battery. And 110 men and me. And for 6 weeks, I was the only corpsman there because the other guy had gone home and hadn't been replaced yet. But I was reading a book, and I'd forgotten a lot of that stuff, and unintentionally. And I wrote a book about my life and said, I'm not going to mention a lot about Vietnam because it's just something I want to forget. But I was reading a book. My ex-son-in-law's dad and I are quite close. He lives in Kentucky, and he was a lifer in the Army. And the book is called Stolen Valor. People who had been to Vietnam, said they were in Vietnam and never left, never been to Vietnam, or earned medals they didn't earn. And in reading the book, I came to a part, and it didn't touch me. But, oh my God. I got to tell you, it was just a conversation with 2 Army men having. One said to the other, hey, what you going to do when you get home? The other looked at me and says, get home? There's no future over here. I put the book down and never picked it up again. Because it brought back such a fear and memory. You think, holy crap, it's been over 50 years, and that one little thing in that book brought back such memories. I said, I'm not reading anymore. I don't need to. And I think the thing that I remember wanting to go to battalion and division, because there were so many people, to prove that point, I was there probably a week, and we had heard that division had gotten overrun, or it got attacked by mortars. And 2 office pinkies who were just working in an administrative office got killed. I said, they were minding their own business. They weren't necessarily doing any damage to anybody, but doing their work. Now they're dead. That's what I meant by no future over there. Until you cross the international state line in the plane, I was coming home, and we knew, oh my God, I'm really going to go home. Because I thought, what if some stupid person shot down this plane? I thought I could, it was just one of those feelings. But that one thing in the book, and I've talked about it before, but that one incident just brought it all back. Because that was what I dealt with a lot. And the kids, the young men, they weren't kids, they were men, but 18, 19 years old, saying, what if I get killed over here, Doc? What's going to happen to me? And Doc, what about this? Or Doc, what about that? And you try to retrieve what you've learned, and a lot of it was just basic understanding. And like I say, I was raised a Methodist. Mama and Dad always made sure you do what you want to on Saturday, but by God, you're going to church on Sunday. And that was the way it was. That was the law of the land and at our house. And so I had maybe a healthy understanding of what religion was and what it took, maybe, at least to answer their questions. And I don't know. And then when I came home, it was different. My dad had worked hard his whole life. He worked on the railroad for over 40 years. He was in charge of the section of road from Oliver Schoolhouse to Sears, which is a good stretch of land, of railroad. And my uncle, John Holmquist, had it from Oliver Schoolhouse to Ludington. And I remember Dad was sort of being melancholy. He had cancer, and they gave him 6 months. He lived 9 years, which was before we had the long-term care facility. Like I say, we opened that in April 1st of 1971. Dad died February of 71. So he didn't materialize any of that. But he was in the hospital, and he said to me, come and see me. I'm 3 to 11. And I worked in the hospital. And he says, why don't you come and see me before you go off to work? I says, yeah, I'll come and see you. Well, Dad was sleeping. I thought, well, I'm not going to wake him up. So I punched out, and I thought, oh, hell, I'll just go give him a kiss on the forehead or something. And I did. I kissed him on the forehead, and he says, thank you, son. And that was all the last words he ever spoke, as far as I know. The next day he died. And but prior to that, he had said, yeah, I guess I got to be buried in Leroy. And I said, well, Dad, where do you want to be buried at? And he said, well, I'd rather be buried in Reed City. So in my infinite wisdom, I go by 8 graves. And I go to Carly Keenitz. And this one stone had sat there since I was a boy, remembering it. It's a big stone with a cross on top of it. And I said, Carly, what do you got to have for this stone? He said, oh my God, Richard, you take that off my hands, I'll make you a deal you couldn't turn down. I said, what's wrong with the stone? He says, nothing. It weighs a ton. It's Vermont marble, and it's never moved from that spot. It was the last piece of furniture my dad bought. It's been there for over 25 years. Because I'm not going to move that unless it's out of here. So I bought that stone, and I took it up to this. He said, well, it can't be Memorial Day. It'll have to be September or August, somewhere in there. I said, okay. So I'd periodically drive by the cemetery and see the lots that I bought. And one day it was there. And so I told Mom and Dad, I said, look, let's get in the car and let's go for a ride. Okay. So they did. And we drove to the cemetery. And they walked. I said, I bought some cemetery lots. Dad, you can be buried up here. And he said, well, thank you, son. That's a good idea. He said, because I don't want to be buried in Leroy. I spent my whole life here. And we walked up to that stone, saw their names on it. He said, oh my God, Esther, just look what's going to mark our graves. And I thought, the man never had anything. He gave it all to us kids,
right.
Mom and Dad both. And I was glad I could do that for him. Right. Because it was not only a good thing for me, but it was a good thing for them. Right. Sometimes you can think, do I really want to do that? You should do it. If you think about it, you should do it. Or say it. You mean a lot to me.
Yeah, right. Just we gotta
Break.
Yeah,
just top the
we're just
hour.
going to do the ID. We'll keep going here, and then we'll take our break in a little bit. It's
Salute to
WBZX Big Rapids here on Curries Corner, so keep going.
Yeah, we're doing a salute to a veteran here today, folks. You know, we just celebrated, I say celebrated, we celebrated the Veterans Day here last Monday, was it? And we had a great parade downtown Big Rapids, and I saw all these young children coming from our public and parochial schools come up there to honor that day to those people. But I really don't know if they truly understand what you folks went through. I was fortunate. I graduated in the class 72, 71. We lost some great people. Greg Geiderson passed in Vietnam, and we knew it was maybe our fate too. But Nixon came out that year and said no more draft, and we were all ready. We had our numbers, and like you say, it was just protocol. And Richard, I didn't realize we didn't talk that much about your history in Vietnam, but I kind of wanted to bring it out because I wanted people to hear the stories, the terrible stories that happened over there. But a lot of guys don't talk about. My dad was in World War II, and he never spoke about what happened over there. But yeah, go ahead with your stories. But you know, at that time in Vietnam, I know you were a Christ-given man.
Yeah.
So did you pray a lot? Did you ask God? Is there truly a God here?
Did I pray a lot? Every day. I said, I can almost remember, dear God, let me go home alive on peace. And I don't want to say anything bad.
Yeah. No, I understand. No.
I think about that. You idiot. You're in Vietnam. Of course you're going to see things bad.
Right.
But I did pray a lot. And I had her name was Rose Southwood. Her son was a professor here at Ferris, Bob Southwood.
Yeah, I knew him real well.
Yeah. Rose Southwood was his mother.
Okay.
And I had dated his sister, Daisy.
I didn't know.
And she was a nurse at Little Travis Hospital in Petoskey, Michigan, where I had been a student. And I could talk about that a little bit later. But anyway, she told me, she says, if you take the Lord with you, you'll never be alone. And she was perfectly right on that. And so a lot of the guys, I remember one incident where there were two kids. I don't know if they were atheists or they just pretended to be atheists because they thought it was sort of cute. Anyway, they came and got me one day and they said, Doc, you got to go talk to so-and-so. He is out of it. He's going to get a Section 8. I said, what do you mean? He said, well, he's this, he's that, he's something else. He's just, you should see what he wrote. And I said, well, so I went and talked to him. They were with me, just laughing like fools, or smirking. And I said, what's going on? He said, I don't want to talk about it. I said, well, he said, hey, show Doc what you wrote. Show Doc what you wrote. And I said, you better let me see it. And he wrote, they crucified you long ago and no one even cared. I care, do you hear me? I care. And I told him, I said, that's beautiful. For the first time in your life, maybe. And because you're in this place with the uncertainty of everything, you're grasping the reality of what's going to happen and where you should be. And I said, you two assholes, you're supposed to like this, and I'm going to the man. I said, no more of this. And from then on, we would have not really church groups, but they were not afraid to come to me with questions like, Doc, how can I assure myself? What can I do? So when I'd ask that priest, he was very clear on certain things that, as Catholic, I believed a little differently. The Eucharist is everything to us and to me. And it all started in Vietnam, though. If it had not been for that priest, I don't know if I would have had the comfort level to even seek out. And then, of course, Mary and Joan, who had very strong in her faith and was a good teacher. I went with Father Thomas Kaczynski to take the classes. And there weren't very many in those days, not like it is today, because I'm part of the RCA team in Reed City, St. Philip Neri Church. And so I know what we do, and it was nothing like that. But Joan had spent some time in a convent for the Blessed Sacrament, so she was very clear on what the Eucharist was and how it should be a part of your life. And it is mine. Now, I'm not proclaiming that Richard Carnes is perfect. Don't get me wrong here, but I at least know what it should be. and to try to attain that. I wish it was, Vietnam for me was scary because an 18-year-old is an 18-year-old, whether he's in the United States or he's in Vietnam. And there were a lot of downtime. So you had time to get in trouble. The laxness. So we would do surveys for like, if this should happen, what would you do? Well, Doc, we would just do this. And I told this one kid, he was going to be on the guns. And I says, just by his edge, I says, you be careful over here. I said, this is not a game. And he said, oh, Doc, you just pull the lanyard and you're out. The bullet goes 19 miles. And, with a shell. And, oh, God, it wasn't a month. This kid caught his arm in the breech. He didn't move fast enough or was not paying attention. And that's how accidents happen, not only in Vietnam, but anywhere else. Like this one farmer farmed his whole life, got his arm ripped off above the elbow, and a machine he worked on for years. Just a lack of judgment or a lack of paying attention, and that happens. Anyway, I told him, I says, didn't I tell you to be careful over here? That wasn't a kind thing to do, but I was just frustrated because of his attitude.
Right.
I'm John Wayne. I can do this. I'm invincible. I'll show them.
Right.
Well, that's what happens. And to change from Vietnam, I really was lucky in the sense that I had a lot of people. Like I say, when I was growing up, I didn't have much self-esteem. Teachers weren't real good to me either. A couple of them were, but I remember all of them. And, but I got a job. I hounded Henry Irwin, who was the administrator of the Reed City Hospital, for weeks about a job. So when I graduated on the 6th of June, I went to hospital 7th of June. And I worked there until I went in service. And then we had her name was Clara Bilo. Her husband had had a stroke, and I was in the laundry at the time working. And she said, will you come and help me? And so getting him in, I said, I don't know what I'm doing, but show me what to do and I'll help you. And she said, Louise Dobbin is teaching nurse's aid. You should take that class. So I did, and got hired as a nurse's aide. And my parents, all they ever said was, just graduate from high school. Just graduate from high school. And so as a nurse's aide, the director of nurses, her name was Florence Gonand from Everett. Her husband was a doctor. And she came to me and she said, well, I put your name in to take the LPN exam at Manpower, for Manpower Act. I said, oh, I'm not going to go to college. She said, well, you're not going to stay like this. I said, well, I like my job. She said, if you like this job and you're content, I'm getting rid of you. I said, you can't do that. She said, you watch me. So I took the test and passed it. And I thought, damn, could I really go to college? Am I smart enough to go to college? And so they ran out of money. So I applied. There were only 2 colleges in Michigan that would take men. And Northwestern Michigan College of Practical Nursing was one of them in Traverse City. It was so new that we were not even on campus. We were in the basement of the nursing facility at Bunsen Hospital. And they said, yes, you can come to the program, but you'll have to find your own arrangements. We don't have a place for you to stay for men. We have a dormitory for women, but not men. So I thought, well, here you go again, another brick wall. I says, Holy Spirit, if you want me to be a nurse, you better help me here because I don't know what I'm going to do. So Mr. Juilliard, which was the dean, called my parents and said, there is a family here that has a son who is a quadriplegic, paralyzed from his neck down, and they want a companion for him to take care of him, drive him around and stuff like that, to be with him. And your son is just about a year younger than our son, so will he be a companion to him and he'll work as room and board? Well, I had saved $500. The program was $415.
Yeah.
So I had $85. And I thought, now that could be 4 months. I could take care of him and I could save that $85. So I did. But, oh, what a nightmare.
I bet.
What a nightmare. Because they knew they had a please don't butter a whole slice of bread. You offend us that way. The name was Whiting in in Traverse City. That's huge.
Right.
The Whiting Hotel. This was Dick Whiting and his wife. Now, the kids were nice. Bill and Julie were sweet. And they had 3 other kids I didn't know. I met Joanne, and I think I met Richard, but Mark or Matthew, I don't know. I never met him. But Bill and Julie were sweet. And they were too. I mean, they gave this kid a place to live so he could go to school. Richie, when you bring soup, always put it away from you. Don't bring the soup towards you. And Richie, please use a soup spoon. Don't use a teaspoon. Richie, please use a salad fork. I thought, oh my God in heaven, if I ever get out of here. And then we give a long story short, I got in an accident with their car. It was my fault. And so I came home for Christmas break and earned $100. I said, Dad, what do you think if I gave them this $100? I said, they're not asking for anything. The insurance paid for it all. But I just give them this $100 because I think I should. He says, son, that'll speak well of you. So I did. But when the time came up for me to go to affiliation, I went to Petoskey because they paid their students $17.50 a week. And so I borrowed Mom's scrub board, and I washed my clothes in the tub and spent 10 cents to go down and dry them. And Jerry Rupert had gone to the same school. I graduated with him. He went to the same school I did for practical nursing, but he was a year ahead of me. So he was already a nurse. So I shared an apartment with him and Bill Stoner for the 8 months. And then I graduated and came home, started working at the hospital again, and as a nurse. And
then you went to
Then
Nam.
I went to Vietnam.
All right, now, let's touch on Nam again. I know I keep bringing it back, and I know it's hard for you to talk, but we do really appreciate you talking about it. Because these kids that are listening are going to listen to your story someday, are going to understand why they're here and how fortunate they are, because we've had a generation or two actually now that have never fought for our freedom like you did. You're the last ones. And I know you're all getting up in age, and I looked at that parade and I could have cried because those kids, great kids as they are, I don't think they understood the insecurities that these people had going into that war. Now I want to talk on wages a little bit. You went over there to fight for freedom for the United States. What were you getting paid?
You know, I don't remember truly.
It was that low.
It was like
then.
$42 when I was at Bethesda, and I remember I got a check for $50. I thought, holy crap!
That was for a week?
A month.
A month.
Every 2 weeks, maybe. I can't remember. Like
Wow.
I say,
Well, maybe
it's every
somebody
2
called
weeks.
in and tell how much they made.
But anyway, I called him. I says, now, I called. They told me you better not cash that check because they made a mistake. So I called him. And he says, oh, yeah. Well, we'll just take that all I want to check. I said, we can't do that. What am I going to do?
Right.
So they did a little bit at a time, but I always very careful, even down to this day. If there's a wage increase, I think, how did that happen? Why did it happen? Is it real or not? So, but I want to tell you, I do the Memorial Day service at Mount Olivet Cemetery in Mead City, Michigan. I've done it for like 15 years. The last one I did, I talked about character. And I said, what does it say about the character of people who come to this cemetery for this service? It speaks volumes. I said, but I want you to look over here to your honor guard. What does it say about their character? They practice and practice and practice to make it perfect. And if it isn't perfect, no one here knows about it because they're that good. And I said, they take out their time. They take because they want to respect and honor. They're fallen in love. They're fallen comrades. And I said, you know, each one of us are going to be in these grounds someday. You just don't know when.
Yeah.
But I said, to speak of the men that carry those flags and march the parades, speak of their character, do that. They don't get paid. They do it because of honor and respect. I said, it speaks in volumes of them. And I always get emotional when taps, when the flag goes by. I remember my kids, I asked them, I can't remember why, but they were taking the flag down from the flagpole. and it touched. I said, hey, don't you let that touch the ground.
Right.
Well, Dad, I said, no, you put that on your shoulder so that it does not touch the ground when you take that down. And they'll say, oh yeah, Dad's doing this military thing again. Because I would go to all the parades. And I used to march when I was a member of the Knights of Columbus. I still am a member of the 4th degree, but they changed the regalia. I had the flumes and the cape and all that stuff. And they've changed it out to look more like a military thing, which doesn't impress me much. But that's a long other story.
Did you ever question? I know there were protests big time in the 60s over the Vietnam War, and I know it was hard coming home.
A good friend of mine, Folks's, his name was Percy Conrad. Him and Flossie lived just kitty corner from my folks. And he was out in his yard, and he waved, and I went over talking. He said, Ricky, where you been? I said, well, I've been to Vietnam. And he says, oh, don't tell him that. Tell him you were in college. I thought, oh, Percy, bless your heart. It was concern for me, but that was the nature of them those days.
Yeah.
It was not a sense of pride. And I went to the VFW. I'm a life member.
Sure.
So I've been a member since '69. And the World War II guys sometimes were just as bad. Yeah, well, we were the big one. Yours was sort of but theirs wasn't televised either.
Right.
Ours was the first one televised, and they could see what was happening every day and the decisions that were made.
But it screwed up so many guys.
It did.
Just-
It did.
I have
And
cousins
it
that ruined their
left a
lives.
bad taste. So I went to the VFW for a couple of years, but after that I just stopped going. Because the backlash, they'd say, well, we were the big one. You guys really don't know what it was like to be tough. I says, a soldier dying is a soldier dying. Whether it was World War II, World War I, Vietnam, Korea, wherever, a death is a death. It's not like we were in the big one. You were fortunate to come home, and so was I.
Yeah.
But the guy next to you maybe wasn't.
Right.
And the feeling of, I can't explain how I feel. I can get really emotional about it. And but even as a kid, I remember I was looking back at poems I've written. I like to write stuff down.
Did you bring any?
No,
Oh, you should've
but this one I remember clearly. My mother made her mad. I said, "Look what I wrote, Mama." She's, "Oh, Richard Carnes, don't you even think like that?" I said, "I'm just a sailor, way out to sea. Nothing really matters to me. If I should die and never get to go home, just remember this little poem. Hang my picture on the wall, then I'll be there after all. No need to say goodbye, I'll be there after all." And she got mad.
Wow.
Because my brother, she wouldn't even listen to the radio during World War II because she was so afraid something was going to happen to him. And my dad wrote me a letter. And when I was the only one he ever wrote to me or any other kids, because he was only allowed to go to the 4th grade to graduate. Because 14, get yourself down to Reed City and get a job. And he could learn to read and write, math, remedial math, but he told me how proud he was my whole life. I thought, what? How could have I misunderstood him so much? I don't think a man could ever appreciate his dad till he's a dad himself. I raised 3 kids. And I thought, how in the hell am I going to pay these bills? And because I was only making nurses. When I was the director of skilled nursing facility, I was making $4.35 an hour. And that was a raise, mind you. I was an RN. That was in 1977. And as a director of nurses, I was only making $14.80, and I worked to get the RNs from $12.15 to $14.
Wow.
And the administrator, I won't mention his name because he was a piece of work, he says, "And what do you think about you? You're not going to get a raise." I said, "Why is that?" "Well, you're administration." So I said, "That's fine. At least my nurses got a raise."
Right.
And but I've been lucky, and I know I've rambled on here. I've probably lost track.
I love but I'm going to talk about the railroad a little bit.
Okay,
Reed City was kind of the midpoint from the Great Lake over on Lake Huron to Lake Michigan.
Yeah.
Reed City was kind of almost in the middle.
It was the
anyway.
crossroads. Both of them intersected. And Dad worked for the CNO.
That's
went
all I was
east
gonna,
and
how
west.
did Reed City come up with the name Crossroads? Is that because of Crossroads of the train?
Oh, the
Train?
Yes,
Okay.
that's how it got the Crossroads name.
The Northern Pacific and then
Yep.
whatever they called the one from the east-west, I don't know.
Pure Marquette.
Oh, yeah, Pure Marquette.
And,
So that was a big town at one time with the
Do
train.
you know what? I have looked back because I had done at our 50th class reunion, I had researched what it was like when we were kids. And what it was like when we were kids. And I said, when we graduated from high school, there were 8 grocery stores in Reed City. 8.
8 grocery stores?
You had Vicks, you had IGA, you had AMP, you had Kroger, you had the mom and pop stores, you had Ben Frank, you had Higgins, you had
I remember that name.
you had Earlers, and you had Hausman's.
Wow, yeah.
And a gas station at every corner. They would even give you, they'd entice you to come give you glasses and silver and stamps. Enough so that when my first wife and I got married, they did an S&H green stamp shower. We had enough to buy a crib and a high chair.
Wow. Yeah.
Yeah. So people, you mean they had battles to get you to come? Yeah. Oh, we want this set of dishes. We'll go there to get this. And the smoked dishes, the glasses with birds on them, and the Mackinac Bridge and stuff like that. But the railroad, and we only lived 50 yards. A big old house on Sears Street.
Did you have hobos back then?
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
And they stopped in Reed City? Did they stay
had
long?
markings.
Pardon?
They had markings. This is a good place. This is a bad place.
Okay.
And they, we had hobos, tramps, and the hobos were all right. The tramps, but we had a huge lilac bush, so big we played it, made little rooms in it. It was enormous. And Mama would tell him, she says, "You can sleep down there, but you'll be gone by the time my kids go to school. When day breaks, you're out of there." And she would always feed them, but she'd never let them in the house.
Wow. So we've always had homeless, you might call them. We call them homeless now. But they didn't stay long because they just jumped on the train and went south?
Now
or
you
wherever.
had hobos, tramps, and bums.
And the difference were what?
The bums would not work.
They wouldn't work.
No. They would give me.
Were they alcoholics?
I don't know. I was just a kid.
Okay, I know. But so then, all right, so them were bums. What was tramps?
Tramps were people who, if you want me to, I will. The hobos were, I guess, the top of the better ones. I don't know. That was what I was told as a kid.
Right.
Whether that's true or not is something else. I don't want anybody to contradict me and say, hey, what he said was wrong.
No,
I don't know.
So the trains, how many years did that go on?
I remember the engines, the smoke, the diesel engines, the smoke coming out of the whatever that's called. I can't remember now.
Right.
But then you had the diesels come in.
Okay.
And my dad, of course, that was his line of track he had to cover. And we'd be climbing the cedar tree. It was big enough for that. He said, "Get out of that tree." He'd come along the tracks. And the girls would lay on the one part of the roof and sunbathe. "Get off that roof!" I remember Dad's yelling out when he was coming by on the train. And Mama took us, I remember one of our animals got killed. It was a cat by the train. She took us down there and says, "See, this is why you don't play on the track. It's an aha moment." I was telling my grandson, he lives in Louisville, Kentucky. And I was telling Elijah, I said, "Now, Elijah, he was eating snow." And I said, "Elijah, you don't ever eat yellow snow." Well, they have a dog called Moxie. And Moxie relieved himself. "Hey, Grandpa, yellow snow." I said, "Exactly. That's why you don't eat yellow snow."
Right.
But if you have nothing to compare it to, I can be talked on him blue in the face,
Right.
but you're not going to get that aha moment.
Right.
And teachers live for those aha moments when they see a kid, "Oh, I got that. That's why." Yes, that's why. But if you never give them an example that they can relate to, they're just talk.
What happened to Reed City? Was it the trains or?
It was a combination of a lot of things. But you know what? The population in the last 50 years has not changed much.
There you go.
2,500 people.
Right.
Now, Richmond Township, who surrounds Reed City, that's bigger yet.
Yeah.
There's about 20,000 people in Reed
What
City.
draws people to Reed City?
In Osceola County.
Yeah, see, and that's what I'm saying. They like the surreal atmosphere, don't they? They like the rural setting.
I like the rural. It is a rural setting, and one girl got really mad. She's on the committee for the beautifying. They called us a bed community, a breakfast community, or a bedtime community. I said, if we're a bed community, we should be the best one we got. I said, let's understand that a bedroom community is not a bad thing.
No, it's not. No.
And I said, people spend money here.
Right.
They raise their kids here. They have a connection with the community.
Right.
They work someplace else.
Yeah.
And I said, so if that is our lot in life, that's what we should do. I just think sometimes it's a lack of vision. This is good enough for my dad. I said, well, if it's good enough for my dad, we're looking at 1899 to 1920. That's when he was growing up. Is that what I want my kid? I don't think so. You've got to move on with the future. It's changing all the time, and it's leaving me behind as far as computers go. Had a real nice repairman come to repair my TV because I had voice but no picture. He says, Mr. Carnes, it's your TV. It's nothing else. Everything works. You're going to have to get another TV. And a nice young man. But I thought to myself, he knows so much more on this stupid TV than I'm ever going to know.
Right.
So when they changed all this stuff, I said, look, I'm not even going to mess with this. I want you to come and do it. Well, you know that's going to cost you. I said, the frustration of not knowing how to do it. Well, then to kind of find out they didn't send me the right material. I would have never found it. I'd been driving myself nuts trying to make that thing work, and it wasn't the right stuff. He knew instantly, oh, this isn't what you need at all. I said, I would have never known that. This is what they sent me.
Yeah.
This is what they said I've got to change.
Do you think the world's better today, our country, our state, our cities, better today than it was when you grew up? Do you think our children are growing up in a better environment or a less environment?
You know,
with what's going on?
If I'm honest with you,
yeah,
I think a lot of that has to do with the way they're raised. I've had a job since I was 13. Paper route, pulling weeds for a teacher who lived across from the old school, and mowing lawns, raking leaves. I don't think kids do that now. I had a kid tell me, I says, will you, can I have you mow my lawn? I says, I've hurt my, $50.
Wow.
My neighbor, Jeremy Andrews, he and his wife did it for the whole summer for nothing.
Right.
I feel so bad about it that I says, I don't want to take the blessing away from them, but boy, I want to know I appreciate it. So I gave him 5 gallons of gas one time and a pizza for the Pompey's pizza another time. But I said, you know, I don't want to take a blessing away from them. And they were doing it. She said, oh, Mr. Carnes, we love doing this. And I watched Jeremy grow up. And he's always lived across the street. And but I think sometimes they'll say, well, yeah, I'll do it, but what you can give me? What's in it for me? I think, you know, it should be a blessing sometimes just to do things for you.
Right.
I don't know if that's really fair for me to criticize anybody,
Well,
but I do think that's true.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it's turning around a little bit. I think this next generation is going to come back and make America better, I think. Yeah. I think the work ethic's coming back. These young kids, I hired recently this young boy, 16 years old, and at first I was ready to throw him out the door. But I thought, you know what? I'm going to give him a shot. And I told him the other day, you've really come a long way. I'm very proud of you. I think you'll be successful in life. I think it took a little criticism for him to wake up, though. And I'm a little hard, I know that. But some kids can't take that criticism.
Nope.
They just walk out and go home and whine. But a lot of them are coming around. I think, especially with this new, we won't go into politics, but God, you truly are a God man. I mean, you believe in God. I think God has a plan for us in America. I mean, we are the strength of the world. That being said, let's just talk about automotive industry a little bit. The electric car.
What I know about a car, you can put in a thimble, cylinder for an elephant. I can change the water. I can change the fluids. I can change a tire. But when it comes to the mechanics of a car,
well, you're a mechanic of the human body.
Yes. What I do, I sit up at McDonald's. I've been doing this for 6, 7 years, 8 years maybe. And I sit there every morning about 6:30 till 7:30 quarter pay. And we have coffee. And it's a group of farmers and mechanics and stuff. What do you think? And I says, I haven't got a clue what you people are even talking about.
We got a call.
It's a socialization.
Oh,
We got a call in. Richard.
Morning, B1039. You are live on the air. Good morning.
Well, good morning to you, kind sirs. How are you doing today?
Good. Glad you're calling. Who's this?
Hey, I just want to say I love what you guys are talking about right now. I think that the future is in this next generation's hands, and we just all got to do what we could do to give them a better world, you know,
Yeah.
first and foremost.
How old are you?
I appreciate who you have left in this world. For some of us who are not here anymore, you know, it's kind of up to us to carry their legacy on
Yeah.
a little bit.
That's for sure. Yeah. Yep. Well, we appreciate you calling in and those positive words. That's what we need more of is positivity, right?
All right.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely, Pat. Absolutely, my friend. And you guys are spot on. So I appreciate you, you know, doing your best. And, you know,
Well, I knew Richard
it's a
would be
day.
good.
It's a good day to be alive. You know
Yeah,
what I mean?
I told him we're not scripted, and I don't think he realized what I really wanted because of being Veterans Day just last week. I wanted to touch on his career in Vietnam, and normally it's pretty hard to talk to vets because they don't like to talk about it. They've been through a lot, and he has, and I just hope that people out there bring this show back up and listen to what he went through and saw what he went through to appreciate more and maybe get back to understanding why we are living in a world of freedom right now. We can go outside here and express our feelings. We can say what we want to without getting shot at. Well, some of us anyway.
Yeah.
But it is a world, and it's up to us to make it better. That's for sure. Yeah.
Yeah, you got it. No, you're exactly on. You're spot on, Pat. And, you know, appreciate what you guys are doing and try to stay positive. And, yeah, try not to run after 10 o'clock today. It's good.
All right. Well, thank you, sir. Yep.
Love you guys.
Yep, you bet.
Bye.
Hey, we better take a break.
Yeah, let's take a break.
And our sponsors, you know, first of all, I'd like to say Big Rapids Pennzoil and Auto Repair, Zach Wells and Kim down there at Tires, Oil Change, Auto Repair. You know, they do tires. Kim and Zach, good Big Rapids residents. They're called homies. They're born and raised in Big Rapids and support Big Rapids Pennzoil because they support you. Seth Winger, new to the area, but have been around forever.
Good guy.
And yes, he is. Yeah, you can touch on Seth if you want to.
Well, I've served on a committee with Seth.
Oh, are ya?
I knew his dad, Ernie,
yeah.
and his stepmother, Susan.
Okay. I didn't know his dad. I hear
Ernie's a
good
good
things,
guy.
though, huh?
Yep.
Good family, huh? They've been in insurance business for a long time in Baldwin.
Yeah.
And now in Big Rapids on Perry Street. But I've gotten to know Seth pretty good the last 3 years. Commissioner Randy Vetter and I and Seth normally have coffee every afternoon.
Oh, good.
For 20 minutes or so and reflect on what's going on in Big Rapids, and that's not much. But no, we have a lot of fun. Seth is a good man, a good family man. Yeah, his dad must have been a terrific guy too, huh?
Ernie was a good guy.
Yeah.
Is a good guy.
And then we got the Gilbert's Carpet Plus. They sell windows down there now too.
Window coverings and things like that. Yeah. So
Yeah, that's interesting, isn't it?
Yep,
They're really
absolutely.
pushing. I listened to the ad on your
Yeah.
radio station 103.9.
Yeah, that one.
That's a good ad. Yeah, and I think it's really getting out to people. People I don't think realize that they can do
Window
all that.
treatments, yeah.
What is it they do? They cover the windows,
Well, you know, it's curtains and
so it's
things
good
like
for your
that.
bedroom. Nobody
Yeah.
can look in your
Blackout
bedroom.
curtains, yeah.
Yeah, that's good. Well, George and Tom are doing a good job down there at Gilbert's. And then W2 Drywall, Dale Wiley, great guy. You know, he's just a terrific man. Whenever I ask him for a donation for any cause, he's always right there. And that doesn't make a guy great, but it says a lot about him. You know what I mean?
Yep.
Yeah, and what makes him great is he does a great job on drywalling. So him and Frank, his partner there, employee there, they come in a lot, and they're just great guys. So
Nice.
if you need any drywalling, see Dale and Frank. Michigan Landscape and Excavate, Jeff Garrett. Know him personally, good Brad Luban introduced me to him. He does all excavating work for your home or landscaping, so we appreciate their sponsorship. And then you have Barrington Firearms Training. You know, if there is a patriot out there, it's Casey Nemeth and Cal from Barrington Training and Firearms. They're right now helping me with the raffle at the big buck pole. And again this year, bring your buck in, hang it, take a picture, and take it home. There's some people that don't like the buck hanging up there too long, and that's okay. I understand that. So
I saw you had one hanging up overnight. I'm like, wow, okay.
We did?
Yeah, the first night.
A buck?
Yeah, it was hanging. Well, I couldn't tell. It was.
I don't know if it was a buck or somebody from the Sawmill Saloon, maybe. Down
Yeah,
there.
right.
But anyway, they were probably swinging on there. I've had a couple people ask me if I was going to put in a swing in there. Yeah, well, we could probably in the off season. But anyway, we're going to go through, and we got some great guns. We're going to give out some great prizes. Woodland Taxidermy up there in Paris, Michigan, Jeff Tyson Company, shoulder mount for the first prize. And then we have like 5 guns, 10, 8, 6, most unusual horns. It's a lot of fun, and then we've got some great sponsors. Too many to mention right now, but I will another day coming up. But anyway, and talking about deer pole, buck pole, I got Randy LaPriest from Big Rapids Realty, Bucks Unlimited. He's the chair of that here locally, and he'll be on tomorrow morning at 9.
Okay.
So yeah, we'll have a good story from him. But anyway, thank you very much to the sponsors. Now go ahead.
Yeah, so we'll take our quick break. Everybody can catch their breath.
Yep.
Marianne is doing our video. Can put the camera down for a few minutes. She's been a trooper. I'm getting something for you to make it easier. So it's B1039 on Curries Corner. Pennzoil in Big Rapids is your quick-stop shop for oil changes and so much more. With certified techs and 35 years experience, they'll have you in and out in a flash, and a free car wash with every service. And don't forget about tires. As quickly as the seasons change in Michigan, it's easy to lose your grip. Luckily, Pennzoil in Big Rapids has the tires you need to dominate all seasons in Michigan. Big tires, fast tires, grippy tires, sleek tires. Go see Zach Wells at Big Rapids Pennzoil today. He'll get you back on the road and ready to roll. That's Big Rapids Pennzoil, located at 710 North State Street, or give them a call at 231-796-4730.
Gilbert's Carpex Plus, color tile. Stop and shop with us for a while.
This is Amy, and this is Corinne from Gilbert's Carpets Plus Color Tile. Make your home cozy, stylish, and uniquely yours at Gilbert's Carpets Plus in Big Rapids. We specialize in custom rugs featuring plush textures, captivating patterns, and even durable Berbers. Imagine stepping on a rug designed to fit your lifestyle and blends perfectly, so soft, luxurious, and made just for you.
From rich textures to intricate designs, we have the options you need to add warmth and character to any room. Visit us at 14150 Northland Drive or call 231-796-2700 to start creating your custom rug today. With Gilbert's Carpets Plus, style and comfort are just a step away.
Gilbert's Carpex Plus, color tile. Stop and shop with us for a while. Gilbert's is there for you.
A trusted landscape design starts with the right team, and the right team to discuss what can be is Michigan Landscape and Excavate. This team is led by Michigan lifer Jeff Garrett. Jeff has assembled a team that knows that high customer satisfaction is why they stay in business. He requires his team to be the most professional service you've ever worked with for both residential and commercial accounts. Grading and land sculpting, trenching, excavating, septic systems, bulldozing, retaining walls, hydro seeding, seasonal cleanup, one-offs. They're a full-service landscape and excavation contractor. Michigan Landscape and Excavate create complete landscape solutions to be uniquely personal. As they say, now that's magazine-worthy. They're committed to excellence. Text or call 231-349-4667 or email michigan.landscape.excavate@gmail.com.
Dale, I've known for many, many years, and I tell you what, when somebody needs some help, he's there. Just like your typical Mecosta County resident, Dale Whaley is a good American. So if you're ever looking for a drywaller for free estimate, call Dale. I'm telling you, you're going to be happy with his work. I have recommended Dale to a lot of people, and you know what the greatest compliment I've ever gotten is thanks for sending Dale. He did a great job for me. Guy's just fantastic. Just not only is a drywaller, but DW2 drywalling, but it's just a great person. It doesn't hurt to have him come into Curry's either. There's just so many good things about Dale. He's just a great American, and give him a call, DW2 Drywall at 231-679-0475. That's right, 231-679-0475. Dale Whaley is DW2 Drywall. Greatest guy on drywalling end of it. All right, Bob. Welcome back. Richard Carnes is with us today. It's been a very intriguing morning, interesting and very, upbeat, huh? But we talked about a little bit about Nam and everything else. But I just want to talk about the Weckermans a little bit.
Yeah.
You know, Joe and I are good friends, and Neil and his wife were up there Friday night, and you guys are all about family, aren't you? The Weckermans, they're all about family, aren't they?
We are.
I'll
They
ask
are,
Joe,
too.
what are you guys doing, you know? And he goes, well, we're going up to Buck and Jackie's or whatever, Buck Harrison. I think the world of Buck, you know, and folks, keep him in your prayers. You know, he's fighting that dang pancreatic cancer, and every day is a gift. And that's why I say, you know, Richard, that I don't know why people have to hate so much hate out there. I know there's a lot of love, but it's just really hard for me to understand how anybody could be jealous of anyone else when the breath you take could be the last one. And Buck has always lived a good life, you know. I mean, I don't know why God picks him to go through this terrible disease, but you know, Buck, he always was with the families too, you know. But the Weckermans for sure picked good outlaws to join the family, and you're one of them. But talk about Esther, you know, I mean, she was a saintly woman, wasn't she? I never met a Weckerman that I didn't like. How many was there, 8 or 10? Or 8 kids, yeah. And, you know, you say to Joe, well, what are you doing Friday night? Well, the family, we're meeting up in Reed City at VFW, or we're doing this, or we're going to the Moose, you know. And Buck's always been a tremendous backer of those clubs up there. But you married a Briggs, you said.
I married
she
a Briggs.
was a Briggs.
Esther was a Briggs.
Okay.
But you know, when you said, why is it happening to people? I remember so clearly when it happened to my wife and I, because God, we were so young. I remember Carl Hungren, he had Aflac, and he said, you want cancer insurance? I thought, why would I spend money? I have all the trouble I can't make in my bills. I'm not going to buy something like that. And then she comes down with cancer. And I remember saying, why me, God? Why us? It came clear, so clear. Why not you? Why not you? Who are you that you should be spared this? I gave my son for all the gratitude I get sometimes. And I thought, that's true.
Yeah.
We make decisions, and it's a guttural decision. Sometimes it's because of what we're, the way we're raised. Like my stupidity is raised in a family that wasn't pro-Catholic. Why was I that way? Because my family was.
Yeah.
If you want to change that, change the atmosphere around it. It's like people who go to therapy. They leave and they got this great foundation now, but they go back to that same old environment. It's not long before they're back.
Yeah.
But now, getting back to the Weckermans. I could talk all day about the Weckermans.
Well, we'll give you 10 minutes.
And the Briggs. And the Briggs. Because
Yeah.
Esther was a Briggs, and my wife
Yeah.
was a Briggs.
Yeah.
And now she's been dead now for 42 years.
Wow.
And they still claim me, and I claim them.
Yeah.
You know, every one of them. I watched them grow up as little kids, especially Clark and Laura. They were the babies of the family, the baby girl and boy. Laura is the baby. She'll hate me for saying that. But anyway, she's the youngest girl and the youngest of the family. And but Clark, they've all done well.
Yes,
every
they have.
one of them have.
Well, I want to talk about that because, you know, if you think about it, every time we have a fundraiser, Joe and Lynn give to it. And I say to my wife, it's karma. They'll win it. They don't win all the, but God gives back.
Oh, sure.
Those people have been
the
taken
blessing
care of.
is giving. You know?
Yeah, it is. They're just true people about that. So I believe it.
You know, if you needed anything, they were there.
Yeah,
they were there for you. They work hard.
Yeah.
I don't think there's a lazy one in them. I don't think any one of the kids are lazy. They're all
humble.
hard.
They're all
they
humble.
are humble. They're all humble and funny.
Yeah,
they can be just as funny as you want to be,
yeah.
and they're competitive.
Yeah,
very.
Well,
competitive.
Brian was a very good athlete, wasn't he?
Yeah.
I mean, I'm sure they all were. But yeah,
Brian was very intense.
Yeah.
The story goes. This is before my time. That he was in trouble with a car. He was trying to fix the car, and he had hurt himself. They have you hammer, you hit your fingers. Say, oh dear God, don't do that again. You hit it again.
Oh yeah.
Well, apparently he had done this, like removing a solenoid or some darn thing. He said, Neil, go in the house and get the gun. You know, he was gonna shoot. But that was Brian,
Right.
and I did not know him. He was one I didn't know very well.
Oh wow.
Because he was already in school. He was in,
sure.
I think South Dakota, Sioux Falls.
How'd they end up with Osceola Oil? You remember
Well,
that?
see, he was a truck driver.
Gene.
Doug,
yeah.
Doug had driven a truck for years. And then when they had an opportunity to sell it to Harrison's, Bucky's folks, was going to sell it, they bought it.
Oh, I see. Okay.
And I didn't realize for years his name is Daryl.
Buck's dad was?
No, Bucky's name is Daryl.
Oh, it is?
Yeah, this is Bucky's nickname.
Never knew that either.
Yeah.
Never heard him called Daryl.
Yeah, but that's his
I'll
name.
call him Daryl
See,
next
his
time I
brother
see him.
Dennis was a year behind me in
I
school.
remember Dennis.
Yeah.
Name, yeah.
It was sad when he got killed.
What?
A car accident.
Yeah.
But he was behind me a year, so
Okay.
I knew Denny, but I didn't know Bucky until he married his wife. Jackie is a sister to Lynn Wackerman.
Right. Yeah. Hayes.
They were Hayes.
Nate Hayes.
And my brother-in-law Jack Rambat worked for Nate.
Yeah.
And
Nate was a well driller.
yeah, but he also put in septic systems.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, did he do wells? Oh, I think he did, didn't he?
He could have.
Maybe he didn't.
He could have.
No, maybe he didn't.
No, I wouldn't say on that because I don't know.
Because I know Junior Allers worked for him.
Oh
too.
yeah. Well, Junior does septics. He does everything. Though.
Right.
He did.
Yeah, he
anyway.
did. Yeah. I think he took the business over for
Yeah.
Nate. But yeah, so Reed City is going pretty good right now.
It is. They're working on the sesquicentennial now for next year, and it seems to be going all right. They've got a committee, and they seem to be doing things well. Things happen that I wish they would continue happening. Like, for example, they had a ball drop for 2 years at the New Year's. But what a neat thing. My sister and I would go down there, and last year, they have the parade. My grandson came from Kentucky.
They have a big Christmas
an evergreen parade, and it was great. He was cold, but he loved it, and he saw Santa Claus, and I was glad I could share that with him. But then they tell me, well, we're probably not going to have the ball drop this year. And I said, why not? Well, then Stephanie, she was a Yost. I can't remember what her married name is. But anyway, she said, we are going to have that. And I thought someone is going to take the bull by the horn, which is nice. And I think a lot of things could happen. It's like when you take it over, you buy it. And when you drop it, it's gone. Like for years, 20 years, Mary Lou Profrock and Mrs. Horschner had all those petunias down, which is now Chestnut Street, the main street of town, going north to south. We would plant pallets of petunias. And, Mary Lou said, we've been doing this for 20 years, and we want to pass this on. The chairman did it for, I think, 1 year and said, it's too hard, we're not going to do it anymore. I thought, that's what happens.
Yeah.
People have done it for so long, they just get tired.
Yeah.
It's like the Tootsie Roll Drive for the Knights of Columbus.
Mm-hmm.
I have done that for 7 years, and I've been the chair. But the guy I took it from, he didn't nurture anybody to mentor them how he did anything.
Mm.
So he says, I'm moving up north with my kids. So I said, how'd you do the Tootsie Roll Drive? Oh, I gave him the news. He said, no, he didn't give me nothing. So I didn't have anything. So I had to sort of do it by myself, start from scratch. So I contacted this guy. He said, Brother Knight. He says, yeah, I'll watch you. I says, I'm not asking you to do it, but I'm saying this is how I do things.
Mm-hmm.
And it's worked for 7 years. And but that's what happens sometimes.
Yeah.
They just get tired, and it stops.
All right. Well, we're going to conclude this with your thoughts and your life.
Oh, I was lucky, boy.
Yeah.
I've been blessed.
But you worked for nothing. You came from the dirt.
Yep.
And you accomplished everything you wanted to accomplish in life?
You know what? I told my cousin one time. I says, I never set the world on fire, but I'm content with what I've done.
Yeah.
And sometimes that's what you've got to do, or you would go nuts trying to be somebody that you're not. I says, I'm content. I haven't always hit the mark, but I've tried.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. Well, we appreciate your stories this morning, Richard. I think you've touched on almost everything. I know we could talk forever, but we won't do that. But we appreciate the audience that we've had this morning. I hope that Richard's touched each and one of you in one way or another and made you understand what the NOM days were like, and these guys that went down the street of Michigan Avenue the other day, what they really endured. And I just really appreciate you, Richard, and I love your strength on. I'd love to listen to your poem someday too. God bless America, Bob.
All right. For those listening on air, we have a bonus song coming up as soon as we finish up here.
You got the song.
I got it. It's all queued up.
I apologize for the ones that can't listen to it on streaming or on YouTube, right, or Facebook. But if you want to listen to it, it's Walk in My Shoes.
Walk a Mile in My Shoes.
Yeah, Walk a Mile in My Shoe by Joe
South.
Yeah. Yep. 1968. Here we go.
Curries Corner.
Brought to you by Big Rapids Pennzoil and Auto Repair. Seth Winger at the Winger Insurance Agency. Gilbert's Carpets plus Color Tile. Barrington Firearms and Training Center. DW2 Dry